Good evening and welcome to the show, or if you're watching the Saturday repeat, hello again. In the news this week, in Hong Kong, it's announced that Chris Patten is to stay on as governor for another year. Despite recent claims that he's been sighted in Ireland, Shergar is finally found on a housing estate in Bradford. And in his latest guide, Egon Ronay complains that standards of service in Britain's motorway cafeterias is getting noticeably worse. On Ian Hislop's team, a comedian who lists among his pet hates twiglets and celery, so he's already in a bad mood after an hour in BBC hospitality, Nick Hancock. And with Paul Merton tonight, a man who has lived through a terrible crisis and survived to tell the tale. He was once the goalkeeper for Hereford United, David Icke. So now we know each other, let's get on with round one. Paul and David, just your luck to get this one.
Well, this is the launch of the latest form of taxation in Britain, the National Lottery. There's Kenneth Clarke in the Cabinet as part of the entertainment, and there's the...
Your chance to become a Prime Minister.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's the lottery. Have you bought your ticket?
No.
So you're not going to watch the show when it goes out tomorrow night?
Well, he's not going to watch it. He already knows who's won, don't you? Well, it's not me, because I haven't bought a ticket. And I don't want to watch Noli.
Noli Edmondsey, you mean?
Yes, Angusy. Don't think it won't be you in a couple of years.
Is Anglesey a small island?
Yeah. Just off Wales, isn't it?
Just off Wales,
Yeah.
So you're going to become a small island just off Wales in a couple of years?
Apparently.
You'll be on the shopping channel in a couple of years, Angus.
I'm looking forward
Who'd
to
want
it.
to buy him, though?
Experts say that with the odds of winning the jackpot at 14 million to 1, anyone buying a lottery ticket this week is more likely to be hit by a car. You thought the organisers would warn everyone about that. Today, newspaper has been offering its readers tips on how to win the lottery. Tip 1, you have got to be in it to win it, so buy a handy hint for all those who assume they'd win the jackpot by sitting in an armchair. Ian and Nick, the best of British.
As Douglas said, moonlighting as a male escort. That's where Doctor Who's always filmed. Yeah, that's Gary Newman. That's the World Formation Waving Team.
He was found guilty in court this week of illegally giving all this money, which should have been given to aid, to various Malaysian businessmen to build this dam. And they said, you're guilty, and he said, I thought about resigning. But then he thought, well, if I resign, then I won't have my job anymore. So he didn't. So he's still Foreign Secretary, in charge of sleaze.
It's a lot more widespread than you think, because they wouldn't let my mum have her flu jab till she bought a Chieftain tank, apparently.
Have you any idea what the aeroplanes were?
The Malaysians were going to buy these Hawk jets if we gave them money for the dam. It's sort of different from the old days, because British planes used to bomb dams. But nowadays we build the dam and sell them the planes, and...
They can bomb it themselves.
£2 billion of taxpayers' money is gifted to the arms industry every year. This makes Britain the 4th largest arms exporter in the world, so even when it comes to killing people, we just miss out on the medals. Paul and David, some sporting behaviour for you.
This is Damon Hill, testing the latest Williams. And this is Michael Schumacher testing something else that looks a lot more interesting, I've got to tell you.
What, the dog?
Keystone Cops. That's a clip from a 1925 Max Sennett film. That's Billy Bovan just falling out of the car.
I was forgetting about your speciality.
I noticed that whenever in a car crash, people always do that. They come out, they stagger around, and their eyes go crossed like that. So it's very natural behaviour what you did there. You got then the police have got loads of film of people having crashes on the M1, coming staggering out cars and then falling over.
And the stars coming out of their heads.
Well, that would be ridiculous.
No. Yes, the story was...
Well, Billy Bovan started off with... He was an Australian comic, and when talkies came in, he sort of specialised, although he was Australian, he specialised in Cockney sort of grave diggers and stuff. He's always in the back of sort of things like Bride of Frankenstein, saying, I don't believe it, look at the size of it. But in Hollywood, they thought that was Cockney.
Well, thankfully, that's what we've got time for.
Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher crashed into Damon Hill, thereby meaning that Michael Schumacher won the Grand Prix championships, because if Damon Hill had carried on and got ahead of him, he would have got the extra point he needed to win the whole contest in the championship.
Did he cheat, though?
It was all planned beforehand.
It was planned beforehand?
Planned beforehand.
You'd be the man to know, wouldn't you?
Bounce the car off that wall, come back, get in the way, half turn his car over, hit a wall, just damaged Damon's car enough to stop him finishing the race. Fantastic, it wasn't. It worked perfectly.
Do you think it was, do you think they should have an investigation?
You tried to entice people into libel, Angus?
Works with you every time.
I don't need enticing.
I think they should have an investigation. It should be chaired by Barbara Cartland. Just to see if she could work it out. You mean you drive that fast?
You daring young men.
Yes.
Why does Barbara Cartland put Tipp-Ex on her face, then? There isn't an answer. I just
Cover
wonder.
up the mistakes.
This isn't the first time Schumacher has been in trouble. In Belgium, he was disqualified when his car was found to have an oversized wooden plank attached to it, or Nigel Mansell, as it later turned out. Ian and Nick, more government filth for you.
John Selwyn Gummer. And that's his speech. There's a bridge. Ah, Gummer again. This is another story about filth. About sewage in Hull. And Gummer has redefined Hull as a seaside resort. Because under the EC rules it means that they no longer have to build a sewerage works. So they save all the money. And Yorkshire Water no longer has to build this sewerage works. And one of the directors of Yorkshire Water is a Tory MP, which is lucky. Coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
14 million to 1, you would think.
You can't move in Hull for people with lilos under their arms, you know. The shopping centre is full of them, all the ones shaped like animals for the younger kids.
They're not lilos.
No, I know. That's why I distinguish between lilos and the ones shaped like animals for the younger kids. Yeah.
Gummer's fellow minister and Widdicombe MP claimed the decision was taken on advice from the National Rivers Authority, but the authorities said it acted at Mr Gummer's suggestion. One local has suggested throwing Gummer and Widdicombe into the Humber to experience it all at first hand. I suppose a couple more turds floating down the river won't make any difference. Which dirty dealings bring us floating to the surface of this unsavoury round, and the visible residue is that both teams are clinging to a solid 4. There'll be another round in a minute, as Boris Yeltsin would say, but first a sober reminder of our caption competition. Ian and Nick, you can have this. Paul and David, you this. And so to tonight's special round, which this week features the paranormal, although some of you no doubt knew I was going to say that. Each team will be shown a photograph of an unexplained phenomenon. Their mission is to study these unearthly manifestations and divulge their mystical origins. Paul and David.
Is it that a giant penis has been murdered and the police have found and have drawn a white line around it? Is it two skinheads being sick at the base of a post box?
It's probably slightly closer, actually, but no. Any idea over here?
Is this the one outside, is it near Chequers?
Could be, Nick.
Well, all right then, it's near Chequers.
It is near Chequers.
Thank you. That's all I remember about it.
Oh, right.
I think it's 6-foot prick outside Chequers, it says. No surprise there.
Who did it?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, really. Well, in fact, that was what I asked you, but you obviously don't know. It's a bit of a
Is it
shame.
aliens? Is this a genuine one?
It isn't.
No, aliens do them.
To be honest, I don't think anyone actually knows.
Why are we being asked the question?
Yeah,
There were two blokes from Mars.
Well, according to certain people it was, yeah.
Well, give us some points then.
The crop pattern was put there by aliens, according to the Circles Phenomenon Research Group. which is headed by Reg Presley, the man made rich by the 4 Weddings and a Funeral theme tune. Says Presley, I think someone out there is trying to tell us something. Yeah, such as if we hear love is all around just one more time, we'll destroy your planet. The outline, clearly visible from the road, prompted one local woman to remark, goodness knows what Norma must think as she drives past. What's that, perhaps? Ian and Nick explain this supernatural apparition.
Is it Eddie the Eagle Edwards?
Why are his glasses up there when his eyes are on his chest?
But it was put there for a reason.
As a protest against the motorway, I would guess.
Is the right answer.
M11, was it?
No.
Usually is M25.
M3.
Actually, I don't know. It's the 500-foot hill carving of the Prime Minister wearing 90-foot underpants entitled The Grey Man of Ditchling. It was created by anti-road campaigners in Sussex. A Conservative Party spokesman poured scorn on the stunt, saying that the caricature wasn't even an accurate one. The underpants were on the right way round, for a start. And there was no shirt tucked into them. So that concludes the scoring from our second round, or the lack of it, as it will appear that Paul and David have all of 4, whereas Ian and Nick have rocketed to 8. So with 4 points in it, there's still everything to play for, apart from any form of enjoyment, of course, as we enter the odd one out round. Paul, your 4 objects of desire are Madonna, his purpleness, Norman Schwarzkopf, and Rupert Murdoch.
I can't help thinking there's some link between Norman Schwarzkopf.
Norman Schwarzkopf.
Is that not Norman Schwarzkopf?
No, it is Schwarzkopf. It looks like Schwarzkopf.
Who's Norman Schwarzkopf then?
Schwarzkopf.
No, Schwarzkopf. Let's call the whole thing up.
Schwarzkopf was the one who went with Bernie Winters, wasn't he?
No, that was Snorbit.
Oh, right.
Did
Very
he
good
lead
Snorbit.
Desert Storm?
What, Snorbit? Well, that great big sort of great St. Bernard dog?
Yeah.
No wonder we did very well there. Well, Madonna's come 3rd in the Winston Churchill look-like competition. Prince is a great big girl's blouse. Rupert Murdoch's proven he's got one finger. It's something to do with names. Prince has changed his name to a squiggle. I don't know. Madonna, it's something to do with names.
Madonna, something to do with names.
Madonna, something to do with
I'll
names.
give you...
The other one out is Rupert Murdoch.
Is it nationality?
Why?
Because I've got more chance of getting this right than I have of winning the national lottery.
The answer is, I'll give you one...
Change the name.
No, it's not that they've changed their names. It's not quite that. The answer is that none of them use their first names anymore, except for Madonna, who only uses her first name. General Schwarzkopf's first name is just the letter H, nothing more, although friends like to call him for short. Murdoch doesn't use his first name, as he thought Keith was a bit embarrassing. Luckily, he had the name Rupert to fall back on. The pop star Prince was actually named after his father's dog, so he got off pretty lightly, according to his sisters Fido and Spot. As Paul mentioned, Prince's new name is now, in fact, this. An idea he got from the Wandsworth one-way system. David, your 4 luminaries are these. Edward Heath, the Carpenters, Jesus, and Pinocchio.
Well, Edward Heath obviously had that picture taken at a Margaret Thatcher lookalike competition.
No, he's got Margaret Thatcher sitting to his immediate right.
Well, it's my previous incarnation down on the left, according to the Sun. Supposed to have been a carpenter, which, like most of what the Christian Church tells us, is probably a load of old rubbish.
Oh,
Happy Christmas.
Thank you. So it's something to do with carpenters, and the only one I can't think of that was involved in carpentry, although it was a bit wooden, was Edward Heath. So I would say Edward Heath is the odd man out, not for the first time.
Whose fathers were carpenters, isn't it? Because
So-
Pinocchio's father was Geppetto, a carpenter.
You're right.
The Carpenters, I don't think their father was a carpenter, unless they named the band after him. So they could have been a band called Civil Servants, couldn't they?
There's a theological problem here, isn't there? Because surely, strictly speaking, Joseph wasn't Jesus' father, was he?
Quite right.
Oh. So you're saying that God wasn't a carpenter then?
Well, I suppose...
He did back in on calling occupants from interplanetary craft.
I suppose if he was God, he could have knocked up a chair easy enough, couldn't he?
Well, he did the universe in 6 days, so I don't suppose a chair would afford him.
Okay.
Yeah, but some of those chairs are very difficult to put together, you know.
If you haven't got the right plane...
They
it's really
exactly.
difficult.
We're talking to the man who got woodwork O-level, aren't we?
Metalwork.
Metalwork.
I
apologise.
got taken off woodwork and was made to do cross-country running.
It is that all of them were the children of carpenters, except for the carpenters who were the children of Mr. and Mrs. Carpenter, who in fact washed cars for a living. Many will remember the Carpenters' hit, calling occupants of interplanetary craft, with its less famous second line, "Why did you put that penis in that field?" Despite being the son of a carpenter, Edward Heath was recently awarded his own coat of arms. It features a green backing representing his name, Heath, stairs representing his birthplace, Broadstairs, and a shiny purple helmet. Not sure which of his interests that represents, so we're not sure. Jesus, the carpenter, of course, went into the family business, so we should be grateful his father wasn't a builder, or all religious paintings would feature our Lord with the top of his buttocks showing. Nick, you're fourth in descending order of articulacy are Helmut Kohl, a tin of John West salmon, Pepsi Cola, and Chris Eubank.
Well, Helmut Kohl's the only one who's bothered to buy a giant poppy.
Very good of him, in the circumstances.
Is it to do with the song Simply the Best? Maybe.
It's an inspired guess.
Chris Eubank goes in boxing to Simply the Best when he walks down the aisle. Pepsi had Tina Turner singing Simply the Best in an advert. John West is Simply the Best salmon. But also I thought Helmut Kohl played Simply the Best as well. So there's no odd one out.
So in what way is this the right answer?
Well, I'm going to go for the tin of salmon because all the others are linked to the song, and the tin of salmon is Simply the Best.
Is the right answer.
There you go.
Yes, well deduced. It's that all of them use the same theme song, Tina Turner's Simply the Best, except John West Salmon, who used the slogan, "It's the fish John West rejects that makes John West the best," which of course was a hit for Marvin Gaye. At Pepsi, Tina Turner followed Michael Jackson, who presumably no longer fitted the company's image because he was turning from black to white, whereas Pepsi, of course, sends your teeth in the opposite direction. Allegedly, we've been asked to add.
Is it Coke that does that?
Oh, doubtless. Allegedly again, I think. Apparently Jackson left in tears after he asked what was in Pepsi and someone told him the main ingredient was bubbles. John West refused to let us use an official pack shot of their product, no doubt fearing that in some way we denigrate it. So we just want to point out how tasty and delicious these chunks of fish are in every can of Sainsbury's salmon, compared with that disgusting John West muck. Ian, spot the subtle connection here. Jerry Adams, Douglas Adams, Richard Adams, and Tony Adams.
I think this is book signing.
Have they all written books and Tony Adams has never even read a book? Or even coloured one in?
Keen Arsenal fan then, are you?
Yeah. I just thought I'd have a real good go at Tony
Yes,
Adams.
no reason why not. So,
I mean, you know, in the company of Jerry Adams, let's go for the big villain.
To be fair, though, he's a pretty bad centre-half. Is he? Yeah.
what, Jerry Adams?
Who?
They've all signed books.
Yes.
They've all done book signings, except the footballer.
Yes, it's not actually book signings, but it's that all of them have written a work of fiction, except Tony Adams, unless you include the insurance form after he drove into that lamppost. Jerry Adams was in London this week to launch his new book. Apparently it landed in the garden of number 10 Downing Street. Richard Adams named his book Watership Down after its real-life setting in the beautiful countryside of Hampshire. Of course, if he wrote it now, it'd have to be called the M3 Extension. Hitchhiker's Guide author
I
Douglas
read that
Adams...
book once, Watership Down. It was terrible. It's more like watered down shit.
Are we going to ignore that?
Yeah, if you like.
Yeah. Hitchhiker's Guide author... Have you read that one?
Yes,
Hitchhiker's
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, really good, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. The author of
I
Hitchhiker's...
did read it once, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I thought it was more like watered down shit.
Doesn't work quite so well, but is equally offensive.
If anything, it got a bigger laugh.
Which singular names bring us plurally to the final death throes of round 3, and the scores are teetering on the brink of being exciting. What with Paul and David with 6, and with Ian and Nick with 13. So 7 points in it, but it's not all over till the fat lady sings, so while we attempt to locate her, let's greet our final missing words round. This week's guest publication, from which 1 or 2 headlines may, or intriguingly may not be taken, is the deeply fascinating Personnel Today, the news magazine for personnel and training decision makers, which is kindly provided by my brother, who is one.
Who is what?
A brother.
He's a brother, yes, and also a
He's
personnel...
one what?
He's a personnel officer, manager, director thing.
I met a personnel officer the other day. It was like meeting a bunch of watered down shit. Have I said before that personnel officers are a complete waste of time?
Yes, you said it several times actually last time they occurred on the programme, but
Yeah.
thank you for bringing it up again.
Pleasure.
Right, the losers start, so Paul and
Well,
Dave...
we're not losing. We're losing, but we're not losers yet.
No, but you're
Oh, I don't
losing
know,
at the
Paul.
moment. Well, there's 7 points in it.
We need a miracle, David.
Bless you, my child.
Great.
This water tastes a bit like wine, doesn't it?
But it's funny because I've got a different opinion about the taste of it. It's like it's been diluted in some way.
But with some other substance.
So, Paul and David, here we go with Maxwell was what, says wife?
A very funny comedian who specialised in eccentric dancing.
Different Maxwell.
Bully, liar, cheat,
Insane.
crook. She noticed it rather late,
Bully.
I'm afraid.
No, mad was in fact the...
Oh, I said insane.
Did you say insane?
Yeah, I did,
That's a bit of a drawback because I didn't hear you. Queen Mum's down what?
My pants every day of the week. Said TV's Noel Edmonds.
Nolan.
As he drove away in his sports car and gave a cheeky grin to reporters.
No, it isn't.
Down with
sadly.
flu.
Down at heel. Next, organisations are not linking training to their business plans, making it impossible to assess whether it's paying off, says who?
Boring old Pratt.
Personnel officers.
Says Robert Deaton. Frank Deaton. Charlie Deaton. Bill Deaton.
Bill Deaton is my
National
brother, but
Association?
it's not actually the right answer. What do you
National
say?
Association?
Very close, but
Of personnel-
inaccurate. And Industrial Society Survey is what I was waiting for, but probably...
But no one else
until,
will.
Very close, isn't it?
And lastly, Saddam recognises what?
Pedigree chum in blindfold test. Q8.
Q8,
Q8.
suddenly, is the right answer. Very good indeed. Right, Ian and Nick, here's yours. Astronomers find what? Hiding behind Milky Way.
Curly whirly.
There's another galaxy.
Galaxy. is
But not the
right
bar.
answer. I'm not quite sure who said it first. I think it was probably Ian.
Yes, it was.
and-
Well done, Angus. Got one right there.
Dwingaloo.
I'm Lord Lucan, says Anne Diamond.
I'm sorry.
I'm doing the caption competition. I don't know what you're up to.
What's he got there?
I thought this was the missing words competition.
I'm around the head. I'm like David.
Is it up for it tonight?
What, the answer?
Pregnant.
Pregnant, yes. Pregnant again is the right answer. Very good. Next, what faster 100 years ago?
120-year-old man.
Trains?
Cars, traffic. Oh, thank you. Traffic in London.
You're not allowed to take guesses from the audience.
I didn't take it from the audience. I just overheard a bloke saying traffic. And I thought it could be traffic.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to give it to Paul anyway, because he said trains, which is the right answer. And finally, what of the year 1994 the search begins?
Young musician, old musician, clapped out musician.
Young scientist.
Furthest peanut butter sandwich in Basingstoke.
Personnel officer.
Dullest personnel officer.
Is the right answer. Personnel officer. Which riveting insights bring us trudging to the end of tonight's hardly fought contest, and the final tally shows that Paul and David are this week's gallant Damon Hills with 12, whilst Ian and Nick are this week's dastardly Michael Schumachers with 19. So, telegram from the Queen to our winners, a transcript of the Queen's speech to our losers. But before we untie our panellists, they have to perform the solemn duty of taking part in the caption competition. Ian and Nick, this was yours.
Camilla, you're looking marvellous.
Is it Prince Charles hypnotises puppet?
I think it's the other way round, isn't it?
Charles meets Lena Zavaroni.
Very good. Paul and David, this was yours.
You bird.
Woman licks chocolate off Malteser and finds man's head sticking out.
On which terminal note, we say thank you to our panellists Ian Hislop and Nick Hancock, Paul Merton and David Icke. And I leave you with news of a tragedy in Germany as Chancellor Helmut Kohl is fly-posted by dwarf protesters. Tony Blair says he won't press charges despite an attempted sex attack at the Labour conference by Des Lynam. And Nigel Mansell shares in the grief over Damon Hill's bad luck in the World Championship. Good night.